Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the NFL podcast, Laces Out. Just me and the co-host this week. I know what you're thinking. Pretty sure you promised us a guest, and I did, and that's all on me. Our guest was unavailable, double booked, other podcast commitments, etc. And yeah, I considered trying to get another guest, racked my brains, and came up with nothing. So, if anyone's to blame, it's this guy. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Obviously, the big one there. Share the podcast around. If you have an NFL fan in your life, send this podcast their way. They might just enjoy it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces Out. Allegedly, recording is in progress. If you've joined us through the medium of YouTube, you'll be like, he's done it again, he's absolutely dropped the ball. And you would be partially correct because...
For a second, when you said if you're joining us through the medium, I honestly thought you were going to finish it with of interpretive dance.
Yes! Now we're talking. I wish somebody had joined us through the medium of interpretive dance because that would be amazing. So there was a guest. I was assured there was a guest, and then I had a message to say, "Yeah, funny thing this, I've actually double booked with the podcast that I do myself on the same day as the time I told you I would absolutely come on to the NFL podcast." And I was like, "This is typical." Is probably the word. Disgraceful. However you want to put it. So yes, no guest again.
Obviously, to let the listeners and viewers in behind the curtain, I did suggest to you in a separate chat that we may have to adopt a change to the format for next year, so we're not as reliant on guests. But obviously that will be to be determined. I would say
TBD.
If we all just club together, we can all rid the world of TBA.
We can do it. I've owned up this season. It's just I struggle to deal with the rejection. So rather than asking for $5 getting rejected and asking for $50,000, I've just not bothered. And yeah, it helps with the fragile ego, but it doesn't help get a guess. I am assured there will be a guest next week. So look forward to seeing me and Paul talking to each other next week. So yes, if by this point you haven't worked out, we are here doing the Laces Out podcast, our NFL podcast on the CookieCast Network. I am joined by my always glamorous co-host, Mr. Paul Williams. How are you this week, sir?
Very well, sir. How are you?
There are germs in my house. They are roaming throughout the house and jumping on unsuspecting people. I don't know if the general public is aware, but if you pay, I don't want to use the word the majority of your wages, you too can send your children to what I like to call the germ factory, and there, for your generous contribution, they will get you the finest, most crippling germs you could possibly imagine. And they will bring them to your house free of charge. So my
my son brought what is just been the best set of Germans home. And we all thought we were doing fine. We all thought we were doing great. We all thought everything's wonderful. And then those germs reappeared. And in the second go round, they decided, yeah, we didn't get anyone else the first time, so let's get hold of the stats mistress and take her down hard. And then I feel like Neo in the Matrix right now because I'm just dodging germs like Neo dodged bullets. So yes, I've had apologies from the stats mistress if the stats this week are, to quote, a little delirious. She said she was struggling to make sense of words and find time she did them. But we've vetted them to the highest possible standard, and we've gone, yeah, that's fine. So there's that. Other than that, I don't think anything big's happened in the world this week.
We'll leave that.
No, something big did happen. One of the greatest feats of human athleticism happened in the NFL, which we will cover shortly. But
we certainly will.
There's business to take care of. So, Paul, I need you to open your book. I was going to try and make it rude, but I couldn't make it work.
The book is indeed open in front of me, and in it, I can see the results of week 9 in the NFL.
Yes, and obviously, after last week, with me going, game 1, I was off to a flyer because I knew I predicted it wrong. It's starting to feel like there's a theme building on this one because I've picked a couple of hurlers this week.
Well,
anyway, I'll let you break the bad news.
Yes, as Mr. Cook has alluded to there, week 9 brought with it 15 games, 2 teams on bye. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers were those 2 teams, therefore they were not in action this week, or last week as it was, sorry, which left the 15 games and 15 points to provide the overall point for the week in the predictions table. Myself, Mr. Cook, and last week's guest, the stats mistress herself, made those 15 picks, and they were as follows. With 10 of 15 selections correct.
Wow.
In joint second / last place, it is the stats mistress and Mr. Andrew Cook.
Yeah.
Sadly. So, Mr. Andrew Cook let down by the Houston Texans not beating the New York Jets in the Thursday Night Football. The New Orleans Saints not beating the Carolina Panthers.
That's the one. That's the toughest one to swallow.
The New England Patriots not beating the Tennessee Titans. The Chicago Bears not beating the Arizona Cardinals. And the Seattle Seahawks not beating the Los Angeles Rams. Whereas the stats mistress was let down by the Texans not beating the Jets on the Thursday Night Football. The Cowboys not beating the Falcons. The Saints not beating the Panthers. The Browns not beating the Chargers. And the Patriots not beating the Titans. All the other 10 selections were correct, which means they're taking the win this week with 12 of 15 selections correct. It is myself. The 3 teams that let me down were the Texans not beating the Jets, the Cowboys not beating the Falcons, and the Saints not beating the Panthers. Every other selection did go my way, which means I get a point for the week and move on to 5 points for the season. Andy, just a point behind with 4, but of course, as we keep saying, does have that asterisk next to his name with his clean sweep of predictions in week 6 in the event of a tie. He will get the win.
Something that I wanted to cover about the Bears getting beaten. I'm not sure if you've seen the video of the women driving around like the car park of the stadium looking for Bears fans and going, "Oh, excuse me, you dropped something," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's that L," and then just driving. And honestly, the video brought me such immense joy because it's just 2 women in a car driving around. And the best thing, it's so good that not a single one of those Bears fans took offense. Every single one of them was like, "Oh shit, what?" They're like, "Yeah, you dropped that L." And then they're like, "Ah!" And it's just perfection. And I'm like, I know it's like one team makes all that sort of stuff, but that is the energy I'm here for. Just good, clean comedic fun, followed by good spirited fans going, "I can't be angry," because that is just mwah. Yes. So yes, that was a highlight of the past week's game. Congratulations for another point in the book there. If games keep going the way they have recently, I see that gap starting to get a little bigger, unfortunately. This week was another one of those weeks where when I made my picks / selections, I was like, "Ooh, this is a good week. This is an easy week to pick." And as I was getting to the back end going, and this one and this one, I was like, which one of these games is going to fuck me over come prediction time? That's all I could think. I was like, this one and this one, this one and this one. And I was like, it's absolutely going to be the last game of the week. That one took a little bit of picking. But all I could think was, which of these is going to fuck me royally when it comes down to certainly the bet. See that segue like that?
So, as Mr. Cook alluded to, we also have the side bet that we rock on this particular podcast. So, obviously, each one of us picks 4 teams each week that we feel are the banker picks. Andy did pick the Texans as one of his 4. So, for the second week in a row, he's been absolutely shafted by the Thursday night game.
Yep.
He was also shafted by the fact that he took the Saints to beat the Panthers.
So that's the one. That's the one. If I pick a game and it goes a different way, that's just the look of the draw sometimes. Ultimately, you're dealing with a 50-50 in some cases. Yes, admittedly, some of those games are not 50-50. But if I was any kind of actual podcaster, I would be able to find a way to clip out me saying last week, I mean, you've absolutely got to take the Panthers. And the moment you get the opportunity to take the Panthers, you've got to take the Panthers. So I'm going to take the Panthers and clip it in here. That's the one. That was the tough pill to swallow after getting shafted game 1 2 weeks in a row to then have the Panthers turn up behind me. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? Wait, no, there's always time for Lou. So yeah.
So he's lost those 2 points. Does make it back with his Eagles and Chiefs selections. So does get the 2 points for the week to move to 24 points from possible 36. My 4 selection, I was looking for a 4th consecutive week of 4 points. It started well when I take the Buffalo Bills to beat the Miami Dolphins. I also had the Washington Commanders to beat the New York Giants, and the Cincinnati Bengals to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. And I just topped it off with the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Indianapolis Colts for a four.
You're an absolute disgrace.
For a 4-hit for the fourth consecutive week, moved me to 29 points out of a possible 36, and a 5-point lead in the side bet.
Jesus.
It's quite the cushion.
I might have to pull the plug on this one already because, fuck, I'm never getting that back. Speaking of the Washington Commanders, there is a dad at the school where a collection of my children go, who has been rocking the Washington Commanders cap all season. In the first couple of weeks of the season, I was a bit like, oh, that's a bold pick. I can only presume that you're a hardcore Commanders fan and you're still rocking it. And then I saw him today with the cap, and I was like, not looking so dumb now, is it? That's a truly inspired headwear selection because, yeah, they do good. So, yeah. Okay, so, lost in the predictions, lost in the side bets. Let's see if I can lose in the stats, shall we? Is that possible? Because if it is, look for this guy to do it right now.
No one ever loses in the stats, my friend. Everyone's a winner when it comes to stats.
I don't know. I'm sure we can find a way. Like, one of the stats will be, and Andy's going to go on to pick another terrible set of games this week. Look out for ways to bet against my predictions and win big money is what we're looking for. I'm even in that thing now where I'm like, maybe it's because I keep going first. Maybe that's what's wrong. Maybe I should put Paul up to bat. Maybe I should take him. Maybe I should make him take the Panthers because apparently that's a loaded gun at this point in time. Big. I do just want to take this opportunity to say big props to the stats mistress. She has been absolutely dying since 4 o'clock this morning, and this croaky little voice from her. I was going to say something there, but I don't want to tempt there. From her sick bed said, "I'm not doing you any stats." And I said, "It's okay. I can go. I can do them when I get back from walking the dog." Get back from walking the dog. I'm like, "Oh shit! I need to do the stats." She was like, "That was what I came downstairs to do. I've done them. I've sent you them." Right. Thank you. So, do have to give a big shout out to the stats mistress for holding the fort in the stats. I can't say for sure, but I am going to go out on a limb and say we're probably also thanking Nate Davis of USA Today because that's who's generally holding up the international side of the stats. These are Week 9 NFL stats brought to you by Nate Davis and the Stats Mistress and brought to you by me and Paul. The first one is a monster. Desmond Ridder became the Las Vegas Raiders' third quarterback of the season Sunday when Gardner Minshew benched in a 41-24 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Recently signed off the Arizona Cardinals practice squad, Ridder, he passed for 74 yards and a touchdown in relief in the town where he was the beloved leader of the University of Cincinnati Bearcats. Might be the closest thing the Silver and Black get to a replacement quarterback option, given they failed to swing a trade to get into position for Jaden Daniels on draft night. There you go. Number 2, Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson collected 4 sacks on Sunday, career high, allowing him to take over the league lead with 11. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdown passes for the first time in his career. He'd done that in a victorious effort. If you want more Bengals stats, look no further, because number 4 is Cincinnati's Mike Gesicki caught 2 of those scoring strikes from Burrow. The first time in his career, he's had a 100-yard receiving day and multiple scores. Though sadly, the effort came a week late to be recognised on National Tight Ends Day. I said it last week, but I do think we might need to look at the name of that particular day. Number 5, NFC East leading Washington Commanders now have 7 of 9 wins. Their best 9-game start since 1996. This is always one of those situations where if we step through a time portal right now, took you back to week 1, and I said to you, in 9 weeks' time, the Commanders will be 7 of 9, would you be like, yeah, that sounds about right? Number 6, wide receiver Darius Slayton had 60 yards on 4 touches Sunday, again displaying how effective he might be in another uniform, given the numbers he's posted. On plays for 900 yards from scrimmage. For the Giants, largely inept offense. There's a lot of words in that stat that don't sit too well. And 7, the final stat from my end of the business. Could the Philadelphia Eagles be the latest team with a receiver need? The only team that poses a threat to Washington in the NFC East after outlasting the Jacksonville Jaguars 28-23. Philly, nevertheless, saw Pro Bowler A.J. Brown leave the game early with a knee injury, concerning development for a team with negligible wide-out depth behind Brown and Devonta Smith. I don't know how I feel about the trade situation in the NFL, because it's like now. I always feel like business like this should have been done, but it's so weird to be like, that guy was playing for this team at the start of the season, not now.
Well, it's weird because as at the time of recording, we've officially passed the trade deadline. That was yesterday. So no more trades will happen this season. I imagine you can still get a opportunity. So if a team decides to cut a player, they can still be picked up by somebody else. So that's the only chance you'll get of roster moves at this point. It'll be cuts and then acquisitions off the free agency part. But yeah, there was a couple of trades that went out. Not I wouldn't have said there was anything like stellar. There was a couple of I think the Detroit Lions ended up picking up a defensive end or an edge rusher, pass rusher to sort of replace Aiden Hutchinson. Steelers got a wide receiver, a couple of pieces here and there. But I wouldn't have said there was anything that was blockbuster, shall we say. But I mean, we don't know the league as intricately as like the football insiders of this world will. So we won't go into the depths of all of the trades that went down on the trade deadline. But we will jump back into the stats and staying with the Philadelphia Eagles. Running back Saquon Barkley continues to be one of this year's best free agent signings. He went over 1,000 yards from scrimmage on Sunday, adding another 199 to his tally, plus 2 touchdowns. But nothing beats his reverse hurdle on Sunday, which he executed on the heels of a Barry Sanders-esque spin move. I think I was saying to you earlier, didn't realise that I'd watched it at first, as I thought they were just rewinding the play.
Let's look at this in reverse. No.
Yeah. And then obviously they played it back again and it was like, no, he has just jumped over someone backwards. So he literally would appear to have eyes in the back of his head. But he looks like a player reborn in Philly.
Yeah, absolutely.
a couple of lads I was talking to said, I don't know whether it's a case of if he's always just been good and he's now looking even better because he's got an offensive line to run behind that knows what they're doing, as opposed to in New York just being put behind absolute draws.
Was it his second season with the Giants that he was just an absolute monster of a player? And then the season after that, he was terrible.
Well, he had, I think he'd lost at least 2 seasons to big injuries. I don't know if he tore his ACL one, and then he might have had like another lower leg injury or something like that. But there was certainly aspects that he looked like he was maybe a little bit injury prone in New York. And fingers crossed, hopefully, he's over the worst now. But he's certainly keeping my fantasy team together. That's all I can say. So we continue on with the stats. As for available wideouts, you can pretty much forget about the Los Angeles Rams Cooper Cup. I've already holding 11 more targets for 104 yards in a 26-20 overtime win at Seattle that levelled the Rams at 4-4 and slotted them into an 8th place tie overall in the NFC, meaning they're just outside of the wild card positions. Not a pretty loss on Sunday night for the Indianapolis Colts, raising serious questions about how long erstwhile quarterback Anthony Richardson will actually ride the pine. Yeah, I think that was one of those games where Flacco got given the start, didn't exactly pull up any trees, and the Colts now have to decide what they're going to do for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
The San Francisco 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers were the only teams on bye in Week 9, yet those playoff hopefuls also seem to have serious depth issues at wideout. Obviously, that's now been fixed by the Steelers in the fact that they picked up a wide receiver in the trade deadline. However, the Niners will get a lift if Jawan Jennings' hip injury recovers sufficiently to allow him to return in Week 10. With quarterback Dak Prescott hamstring and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb shoulder banged up in Sunday's loss to the Atlanta Falcons, you wonder if Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones will be all out at some point as his underwhelming squad continues to sink toward the bottom of the NFC. A conditional 7th rounder for oh god, I don't even know what that word means. A conditional 7th rounder for recalcitrant Ezekiel Elliott may be welcome, as Rico Dowdle continues to cement himself as the best back on the roster. I can only presume that word means returning or back in the building or something like that. But obviously Ezekiel Elliott back in his second spell with the Dallas Cowboys, but apparently being kept for the postseason. Lol. And my final stat of the week. Congratulations to the Carolina Panthers, who notched their first home win of the season on Sunday by beating the New Orleans Saints 23-22, whilst avenging a 47-10 Week 1 embarrassment at the Superdome. It was such a discouraging loss in New Orleans, the Saints cut the cord with head coach Dennis Allen on Monday morning, in something that was probably akin to a merciful divorce, given the club's current 7-game slide. Yes, the Dennis Allen firing was the shock to absolutely no one with a brain on Monday morning. One of those sooner rather than later.
Yeah, get it done now. Just in case you're wondering, recalcitrant means stubbornly resistant to authority, control, or instruction.
Well, there you go. I stand corrected and educated more than anything else. That brings us to the end of the Week 9 stats. And Week 9 is done and dusted altogether. Week 10 brings with it 14 matchups, as there are 4 teams on the bye this week. Those 4 teams find themselves being the Cleveland Browns, the Green Bay Packers, the Las Vegas Raiders, and Seattle Seahawks, which leave 28 teams to duke it out in Week 10. Myself and Mr. Cook have provided our Week 10 picks. They are in the book. In lieu of a guest this week, I have taken the same approach that I took for week 3, in that I have taken the betting odds as this week's guest. Now, I've taken the favourites in the bookies' eyes in each of the games, with 2 exceptions, which I will go through when we get to those games later on. So before we dive into Week 10's game selections, we are going to take a very short break just to recompose ourselves and recharge. We will be right back, but don't you touch that dial because we won't be going anywhere. See you in a moment. And just like that, we're back. See, we never went anywhere. So, Week 10, 14 games. The first of which is the Thursday night football, and it is a divisional matchup that is probably tastier on paper than it would be in real life, as the Bengals take on the Ravens in Baltimore. Had the Bengals not lost some of the games that they did earlier in the season, I think this would be a little bit more hotly anticipated. In as much as myself,
it's games like this that annoy me because this should be an absolute screamer. This should be peak Bengals going up against peak Ravens. It should be 34-38, 56-54, just absolute wild numbers. It should go into overtime. It should be right down to the wire, and then one team should just eke it out. And at the end of it, you should feel like you've run a marathon. Instead, and in the nicest possible way, you've got the Bengals turning up. And let's face it, does anybody really know what the situation is with the Bengals at this point in time? You know, which version of the Bengals are going to turn up this week? It's that versus the Ravens being the Ravens. Oh, by the way, they're bringing Derrick Henry with them. So we know how this one's going to go. So if I'm picking the Ravens, maybe get a little bit of money on the Bengals.
well, if that is the case, then obviously myself and the guest taking the Ravens as well will come as no great surprise to anybody. That's the Thursday night football. That moves us then on to Sunday, and the first game is played at 2:30 UK time, and is the final game of the international series as the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers travel to Munich, Germany, to take each other on in the latest game of the international series.
I know all the jokes have been done for this one, so I'm not going to tackle that one. But fucking hell, what did they have to give the tickets away for this one? Were the tickets free?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was determined that not all tickets have been snapped up for this game, shall we say? But yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, the Panthers obviously going to this off the back of a win, yet they still find themselves heavy underdogs, even though it's technically a home game. The Giants going as the favourites, and as such, they have been backed by all 3 of us. So no great shocks there. The rest of the Sunday slate starts with the New England Patriots at the Chicago Bears. Surprise, surprise, we've all taken the Bears on that one. The next 5 games, we've all picked the same way. So we have The Vikings and the Jags. We've all taken the Vikings. Surprise, surprise, we've all picked the undefeated Chiefs to continue that way at home, albeit it is against the Broncos team that doesn't look too bad, but obviously was taken to pieces by the Ravens last week. And obviously it is a divisional matchup. A little bit of eagle, but you'd still imagine the Chiefs look too much at home. We've all backed the Falcons to take the win at the New Orleans Saints, even though obviously the Saints going into this with a head coach change. And we've all taken the San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, this is the 49ers coming off their bye. I believe Christian McCaffrey was practicing this week, so there is a possibility that he may appear in some form or fashion in this game. Watch this space. I don't think it's guaranteed that he'll play, but there is obviously a possibility, and where there's a possibility, that even if they can get him on the field for 2 or 3 possessions, then it gets him back in the fold and gets him back into the mode of playing, which is obviously what they're going to be doing as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Do we still have any 6 o'clock games? Yes, we do. Pittsburgh at the Washington Commanders is the last of the 6 p.m. slot, and it is our first game with a difference of opinion. Now, the favourites in this one, surprise, surprise, are the Washington Commanders, and that is the way that Andy has given his selection. However, I have gone the opposite way on this one. I think the Steelers, coming off the back of a bye, will have had the chance to rest up. I think they might be going this one feeling good. Obviously, they've got the new wide receiver. They've got a new player on the defensive side of things. And the Commanders didn't look all that convincing in their defeat of the Giants. Did you get the win? But it took them a little bit longer than it probably should have done to get that win over the line. So that's our first difference of opinion. We move to the 9 o'clock and 9:25 slate of games. Surprise, surprise, we've all backed the Chargers to take care of business at home to the Tennessee Titans. Next up, we have the New York Jets at the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the favourite for this one is the Arizona Cardinals. They are favourite by 1.5 points. However, as Mr. Cook and the guest had selected the exact same across the board, I've taken the executive decision to change the selection for the guest in this one because it's the smallest margin of the handicap. So in this one, the Cardinals are half-point favourites. So because it's a small margin, I have gone with the Jets for the guest pick on this one. There is another team where that is the case. I'll come to that when we get to it. So that's our first difference of opinion. Myself and Andy on the Cardinals. The guest is on the Jets for that game. No one will be surprised to hear we've all taken the Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are an absolute train wreck at the moment. They don't have a fit they don't have a fit starting quarterback. Obviously,
can I raise something that
yes.
This is not the first time this subject has come up while talking about American football and talking about certain teams, certain injuries, hiding injuries, masking injuries, etc., etc. We all saw the injury that Dak Prescott sustained. He had some sort of finger injury going on. He was being taped up at the sideline. It looked, it didn't look pretty. It didn't look nice. I wouldn't want it. 2 minutes later, Dak's not returned to the game with a hamstring injury. Okay? He's now listed as out with a hamstring injury. Okay? Seems like a weird one. Because they were highlighting that it was his throwing hand. So why can't they just say injured hand. Is that not on the drop-down selection? They're like, oh, injured hand is not on the list. What's the closest? Hamstring starts with a H. Pick that. See, clever thinking that right there. Proper weird one, that one for me. Proper weird.
I'm saying nothing. I have no doubt that he is injured. I'm sure his hamstring is really bothering him. We move to the Sunday night football, where the Detroit Lions are taking on the Houston Texans. And if you cast your mind back 10 weeks, a certain person on this podcast may have selected their Super Bowl matchup as being the Detroit Lions versus the Houston Texans. That person is now thinking that probably won't happen. Seems like the Houston Texans seem to be losing players left, right, and centre, and their quarterback isn't playing the best at the moment. And that is reflected in the fact that we have all picked the Lions to get the win in Houston.
Do you remember last week where I said, I think we need to get on quickly and do our, if you were to take your Super Bowl pick again this far in the season, what would it be? Because I really want to redo mine, because one of those two teams is in my new Super Bowl pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I think the Lions are pretty much across the board, everyone's sort of number one team in the NFL currently on current play projections, etc., etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions.
I am drinking the Lions Kool-Aid, 100%. Mm-hmm. Glug, glug,
yeah.
glug, glug, glug.
Doesn't surprise. We finish the week with the Monday Night Football, which sees the Miami Dolphins travelling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Now with this one, again, the Rams are the 1.5 point favourite with the bookies. Myself and Mr. Cook had picked the Rams. So, because picking the Rams would have given the exact same selections as Mr. Cook, I have done the same thing again. I've taken the executive decision, as it were, to change the guest selection from the Jets to the Dolphins because of the 1.5 point favourite spread difference, basically. So that means that there's only one team difference between myself and Mr. Cook, which is the Steelers and the Commanders. There are two differences between Andy and the guest, in that he's got the Cardinals, whereas they've got the Jets. He's got the Rams, whereas they've got the Dolphins, and that makes it three differences between myself and the guest. So whichever way it falls, there shouldn't really be the same picks across the board, so there shouldn't be any need for a tiebreaker there. So 14 games done. Browns, Packers, Raiders, Seahawks, all on bye. Those are your 14 selections done for myself, Mr. Cook, and the guest. All that's left for week 10 is myself, Mr. Cook, to look through those 14 games, pick out 4 bankers each for the side bet. Now, you did say earlier on you were potentially going to be looking at a change of tact, and were you going to put me into bat first, and then you get the 2 sets of 2 as the pick? So, are you going to follow through with that, or are you going to choose the first game off the board once again?
I've just been going through the game, and I was like, if I allow you to have the first pick, and you don't pick either of my first 2 picks, then that allows me to take those 2 straight away. And I immediately went to see who are the Panthers playing this week. I was looked at that game and went, oh no, that's one to avoid this time out. So something's got to change. It's a week where something's got to change. You are 4 for 4 for 4 for 4. I'm doing it. take your first pick.
I like it. I like this. I like this change of opinions. Right. So, I will jump straight in, and I'm going to take the Chicago Bears
Oh,
to bounce back from a couple of grueling defeats. Obviously, they lost to the Commanders with the Hail Maryland, as it was being dubbed, and they suffered quite a bit of a beating at the hands of the Cardinals last week out. But they are at home, and they are playing the Patriots, who didn't look all that good. So I'm quite confident with my Bears pick as my first selection.
Absolutely not going to lie on this one. The Bears pick was my hoping to slide it under the radar away from you so I could pick it further through the picks. Because I saw it and went, yeah, Patriots can't really do anything at the moment. And the Bears, everything you just said there. So I get 2 picks to start my ball rolling. And it's the 2 games in front of me right here. I am going to take the Kansas City Chiefs to advance to 9-0 against the Denver Broncos. I will say this here and now. My picking has been fairly atrocious recently. I don't know that the Chiefs are going to go all the way. I think they're going to. I don't think there is a team. I don't think of the 31 other teams, there is a team there that can beat them. Except maybe the Lions. But we'll talk about that in a few weeks. The Broncos have this weird ability to go, yeah, I think we'll win this week. It's like, yeah, you play the Chiefs. Like, yeah, I think we'll win this week. And we'll then walk out and just do weird shit. So because I picked that game, a pound on the Broncos ain't going to break the bank is all I'll say there. Immediately jumping straight on to the Buffalo Bills to advance to 8-2 against the Indianapolis Colts. As we've discussed already, the Colts, I don't know if anybody's really sure what's going on with the Colts at the moment, including the Colts. So those are my first 2 picks for this week.
Yeah, both the ones that I'd looked at, but I just fancied the Bears slightly more because they're at home.
Absolutely, I thought I was going to be picking up the Bears next.
Yeah, and obviously Chiefs Broncos, because it's a divisional game, I think it's just got a little bit more jeopardy on it. Bills was probably the game I should have taken in hindsight, but yeah, you live and learn. There's a team that I probably should take, but because of who their quarterback is, I just can't do it to myself. So you'll be happy to know, Andy, that the Falcons will still be there for you to pick when it comes to it.
Honestly, before you say it, I just want you to see what's on my screen, ready and waiting to be picked. Right there. just staring at me, and all I can think is, well, I know which team's not getting picked next. So
I mean, honestly, he could be statistically the highest rated quarterback in the league. I still wouldn't care. I just do not trust him as a quarterback.
One week he was the highest rated quarterback in the league, and you still wouldn't give him any of his dues.
I just don't care. I just like I've honestly, seen enough.
I don't want any confusion here. I personally think he is possibly one of the single worst human beings on this earth. So I don't want any confusion. I'm not backing that person.
Bear in mind, this is a guy who led a drive when he was at the Washington at the time Redskins. I believe they were on a drive to beat the Dallas Cowboys, and he got it to within, I think it was within field goal range, and they were the clock was expiring. The clock was expiring, and obviously they had no timeouts. So he went to clock the ball and accidentally took a knee to keep the clock running. But in doing that, took a knee and then tried to spike the ball, and they were like, "That's not how that works, mate." So that's mainly the reason why I won't ever be picking a Kirk Cousins-led team in the side bet. I will be, however, taking a Justin Herbert-led team, and I will be taking the Los Angeles Chargers to beat the Tennessee Titans. Thank you. Thank you. And with my third selection, I will drop down to the Dallas Cowboys game and take the Philadelphia Eagles to put a whooping on the Jerry Jones owned Dallas Cowboys. Although, to be fair, at the end of that game, probably going to be that the new owner of the Dallas Cowboys is the Philadelphia Eagles. Your last two selections, please, Mr. Cook.
Again, I was wondering whether I might have been able to sneak the Eagles Cowboys game out from underneath you, because I had a feeling you wouldn't want to pick against the Cowboys. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings to take care of business against the Jacksonville Jaguars. One of those games, you kind of have to look at the numbers for this one. The Vikings are 6-2. The Jags are almost the opposite at 2-7. I mean, what else can you really say there? I need a final pick. Honestly, I wanted to jump over to the Lions game, but the Texans, man, they're again another one. One week you're going to get a good version of the Texans, and the week after you're going to get a not good version of the Texans. And don't I know it, having the quarterback for the Texans in my fantasy team. I think I've got one here on my screen. I'm just going to triple check that it is the right move for me. Working on the principle, it also will take it. Yes. Okay. So let's find out what Aaron Rodgers' excuses will be this week when the Arizona Cardinals take care of business against the New York Jets. Percentage-wise, it's almost a 50-50 pick on this one. 42% have picked the Jets, 58% have picked the Cardinals through ESPN. We could probably do an entire podcast on the Jets and just exactly what's going on there, but let's not bother.
So that leaves me with my last selection to take, and I don't know if these words are actually going to come out of my mouth, but I'm going to take the New York Football Giants to win a game of football.
Wait, do we know that? Do we have it confirmed that they know how to win a game of football? Do we know that it's a thing? Percentage-wise, through ESPN, 75% of people have picked Giants. I imagine they've looked across the way and gone, they're playing the Panthers. 25% of people have picked the Panthers. So, you know, percentage-wise, you're on the side of justice.
Yeah, I don't want to alarm. I don't want to alarm anyone either. It's not just in this game that I'm backing the Giants, because in fantasy I'm having to play Daniel Jones as my starting quarterback.
And this wasn't a thing last week. Couldn't have been a thing last week. Oh no. I think I've only just been able to get up and move around from the absolutely drubbing game the other weekend. It's been I haven't been able to leave the house because I can't show my face.
So, for clarification, the four selections for myself and Mr. Cook are as follows. Andy has got the Kansas City Chiefs at home to the Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills at the Indianapolis Colts, the Minnesota Vikings at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Arizona Cardinals at home to the New York Jets. My four selections are the Chicago Bears at home to the New England Patriots, the Los Angeles Chargers at home to the Tennessee Titans, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys, and the New York Giants at the Carolina Panthers. Well, obviously, that game is being played in Munich, so technically neither a home game for either side, technically a road game for both, but more so a road game for the New York Giants. That, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of Week 10's predictions and the end of this week's podcast. Back over to you, Mr. Cook.
So there we go. It is the end of this week's podcast. I am assured that we will be seeing, allegedly, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but allegedly back-to-back weeks of guests. So tune in just literally for that. Speaking of tuning in, this is not the only podcast we do. We are a podcast network, and that network is vast. If you are into the Formula One, we've got you covered with the Straight to the Apex podcast. Those boys, they have got that format down. It's fantastic. We've got the Wrestling podcast. Stu drives the bus for the Wrestling podcast, and what a fantastic job he does that. And I think it's potentially one of the only written, not scripted, I think is the way it's put in podcasting these days. Stu puts a lot of time and effort into writing up the Wrestling podcast, and I think it shows in the quality. We have our football podcast, myself, Mr. Williams, and Mr. Matthew Moore, Stuart Mann, to get together to discuss football that not just covers one league, two leagues, all the leagues. Sometimes we've got to get all the way in there, and every now and then, tiny little bit of international football. And if you're not tired of listening to my voice, jump over to listen to the Darkest Timeline. I've tried to be less angry, and that's going real well. I talk about my anger management techniques, which is mostly not working. So if you want to listen to an angry man talking about things that make him angry, get yourself over there, because there's plenty of it. Just parking, really, parking annoys me these days, but other than that, it's generally just, an old man being a dad and trying to just make it through every single day, try to get to the next podcast where I can talk about how difficult it's been since the last podcast. Other than that, talk about
those clouds are really starting to piss you off.
Yeah. I talk about movies. Saw a really good one the other day. It made me cry. Anyway, those are just some of the podcasts we offer. Take a deep dive. If you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe on this podcast. That way you get to check out what we've got going on in the next few weeks with guests, basically. And me and my glamorous co-host, Mr. Paul Williams, will be back no matter what, because we are, some say glorious punishment, others say just dedicated to the craft. Enjoy your games, enjoy your week of football. If your team is playing this week, so obviously there's a couple that aren't, get amongst it, enjoy it, crack open.
Obviously, if you're listening or watching in Germany, try and enjoy that game.
Sorry. We apologise on behalf of the scheduling committee at the NFL, even though we have nothing to do with it. We're just sorry. It's just nice to get a game, so look at it that way. Right, there we go. That is week 9 in the book, week 10 in the pipe, in the barrel, locked, loaded, ready to go. Join us next week And until next time, we out. Take care of each other, and we will see you next time. Tatty, bye.
So there you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone. I promise I'm definitely going to try and get a guest next week. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for being here. Before you go, do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review, and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
This has been another episode of CookieCast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.